Karate is so useful at so many things. Karate for self-defense, karate for fitness or sport or competition, karate for even mental health, but karate for business? Hey, what's up? I'm Ken. This is kenfuTV, and each week I release videos in the martial arts, philosophy, technique, training, that sort of thing. So if that's the kind of thing you're into, I hope you stick around. I hope you subscribe. I hope you like this and share it if you think somebody might get value out of it. But mostly I just hope that you enjoy it and that, at least for a few minutes, it's something that brings a little light to your day. So today we're talking about this book. This is The Anxious Black Belt by Les Bubka. He had some interesting things to say about business in there that stood out to me, and I want to talk about them. Before we do that, let's do shirts and patches. All right. Wait, that's not right. Hold on. That's better. All right, shirts and patches. No new patch this week. So we'll jump straight into the shirt. The shirt today was one that was sent to me, a gift from Les Bubka. I really appreciate its message, this idea that karate has a role for mental health as well. It has the ability, healing, restorative. Those are two separate words. The healing and restorative powers of karate and other martial art training is immense, and I think that people should take advantage of the fact that this kind of stuff, and not just martial arts, but we're talking about martial arts here, can help in recovering from trauma and anxiety and depression and all the different kinds of things. It can help. Is it the answer? No. I don't believe there is an answer. I believe there's many answers and many facets to it. And in this case, martial arts and other things that build people the way martial arts does have a way of helping people heal and being a part of the process of healing. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we talk about Les's book today. But before I do that, if you want to be featured on the channel, if you want to be part of the Studio 2021, I'm hoping to fill this wall with patches of different clubs from all over the world and maybe tell your story a little bit. Then you can hit me up at shirtsandpatches@kenfu.tv, get you an address, send something over, and I hope that you send a story so I can share your story. Because I want to do that. I want to use this platform as a way to shine light on other people, other schools, other groups, other individuals who are doing amazing things in martial arts. And that said, let's jump into today's video. Today we're talking about a book, talking about a really great book, one that I'm really excited about. I just read it for the second time today, and that is this book here. This is The Anxious Black Belt. Right away, just from the cover, this book has a lot to say right here. So if you look, you've got that position that is like closing out the world, trying to protect yourself and try to deal with everything that's going on, that overwhelming feeling. And then meanwhile, up top, we've got the darkness, right? We've got all the things in life that are so hard to manage. And then we've got karate bringing in the light, literally punching back the things that are causing the pain. And I love it. So the cover was the first thing that stood out to me. And then I touched it. Like little side note, this book feels really good. Like the way they just printed the material that they used for the cover just feels great. I can't say that about every book, so I'm going to point it out for this one because it's rather enjoyable. In this book, Les talks about his life. His life from a young child all the way to really now, or to the time of the writing of this book, which was not very long ago, as well as his growth. And not all of it was positive growth. External influence, family and different things had a negative influence, a negative impact in his life that led to anxiety and depression and panic attacks and just difficulty managing day-to-day stress. Little things. Talking to someone across the counter about groceries, answering questions in school. And I think we all have things, varying degrees, and maybe not to this degree, and maybe even worse than this, but we all have things that we've dealt with. Things that make life challenging, that we struggle to know how to handle. And in this book, Les talks about how events in his life led him to a better place. And it just so happened that karate played a big role in that. It wasn't the only thing, and I don't want to make that, it's the anxious black belt and karate for mental health, but there were more things, mostly human things, people, interactions that help them to face these things, and they don't just go away. And he'll be the first to tell you that some of this stuff stays with you, and it just becomes less, or you become able to manage it better, and that's okay. Every day is a challenge. Every day is an opportunity that we get to continue to build and build a better life for ourselves and the people around us and the people that we care about. And if you're a person who maybe doesn't struggle with this as much, maybe realizing you have potential to help be the person that helps somebody through something like this. I think everybody should read this book. Not just martial artists, but if you're a martial artist, you definitely should. Hell, you might even be going through these kinds of things. And to hear his story and hear him talking about how he's chosen to approach this stuff, and just the sheer force of will. A big one that stood out was his undying need to keep his word. And so sometimes that need to keep his word made him do things that he wasn't comfortable doing, which allowed him to grow. But there was a passage, there was so much. Like I said, I just read through it for the second time, and I just finished it not an hour ago. Really, really enjoy it, but there was a passage that I wanted to talk about. It has an attachment for me, but it also is just interesting. So, towards the end, page 86, there were two parts. There was a little one-liner that stood out a little bit that he says, "Through all my life, fear of failing was like a big anchor holding me back." And I think, and I wanted to at least point, that's not what I'm talking about in this video, but I wanted to at least point it out because I think we all have that fear of failure. Being an anchor that's keeping us from wanting to try things. We're not challenging ourselves because we're afraid that we'll fail before we ever even try. And so I just really, really liked that line. But he's talking about business. He's talking about opening up his business and the challenges that if you have that struggle to talk to people and to manage that and all of the stress and the anxiety and all of that, that the idea of actually building business, and he was going to business as a personal trainer, so it relied on client interaction. It wasn't go stuff yourself in an office somewhere. He had to generate clients, and that requires communication and talking to people and cold calling, talking to people that you've never talked to before. And he says, "My experience in karate came to the rescue. I decided to approach every part of the business like preparation for a grading. White belt, sending emails. Yellow belt, distributing leaflets. Green belt, talking on the phone. Brown belt, interacting face-to-face. Black belt, negotiating with the agencies and organizations. I made a list of things which I had to improve." And I love that. You'll know from the book that sending emails was easier for him. Writing, communicating in writing. Maybe why he writes books. It was easier. It was something that he could approach much easier than talking to someone, especially calling someone or talking face to face, way more difficult. And so he's like, all right, if I can work on becoming better at sending emails, because it was maybe still a challenge. How do I approach what I need to accomplish over email? So he worked on that. All right, that's my white belt. Okay, now I'm going to go for my yellow belt. I'm going to start getting out on the street. I'm going to start handing out leaflets and telling people about what I do. At least handing them to them. Maybe he didn't talk a lot to him. He's like, hey, I do this. Maybe it'll help you. And here you go. But he's out there doing it. Then green belt. Okay, I'm calling people. I'm gonna meet this head on, and I'm calling people. And each one of these, just like a grading in the martial arts, is more difficult than the last, and isn't just instant. It wasn't just a checkbox. Today I'm going to send an email. Then I'm going to go distribute some leaflets. Then I'm going to go make some phone calls. Then I'm going to go talk to some people. Because let me build up on that. Let me start with sending emails is something I can do. I can get through that. So let's do it. Do that for a while. Okay, hey, this is working. I'm feeling more confident. Now I can go distribute leaflets. I can go put this out there in person. And then maybe I can start calling people. When I call people, okay, now I'm starting to get a lot more comfort. I'm recognizing a lot more comfort in myself that I can do this. This is my goal, is to become good at making phone calls. And that's how I'm going to get my green belt. And then I'm going to go talk to people. I'm going to go face to face. I'm going to meet with them. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to talk, and I'm going to tell them what I do, and I'm going to tell them why it might help them and how my business can help provide something for them, provide a service to them. Man, once I can do that and I'm getting that figured out, I'm a brown belt now, and then black belt. I got to go and work at these things. So each one harder than the last. It also assigned kind of a priority and a process. I'm not going to go try to talk face to face with someone today, because first I need to become good at doing this. And when I become good at doing this, I can start working on doing this and become good at that and this. And now I have both of these. And then I can do this. And then I can do this. And that's the way the martial arts works. That's the way the grading works. How promotions and rank happen are building skills. And you start off with things that are much easier and they become more difficult, and you collect them and you become better at all of them. As you become better at the hard ones, and the easy ones become incredibly easy. You start teaching those. You start becoming somebody who can share that skill. And I love that he took that. I love that he took that and he used it to leverage himself and to challenge himself to have this way of approaching becoming better at making his business succeed. And I'm not going to spoil where it goes from there. You should go read the book. There's a link in the description, and you can find it at lesbubka.co.uk. You can also find shirts and stuff over there too, so do that. But I just think it's fantastic. I've had similar things, not that clever. I really, really like that. I've had similar things where the martial arts, the way I approached something in the martial arts, gave me a way to approach something in life. And I think that's huge, especially if you are a parent. Read this. It's going to speak to you maybe a little bit about what kids might be going through, because they don't necessarily have the confidence to talk about it, or maybe the environment isn't creating an opportunity to talk about it. But it also should show you that there's benefits. Some parents talk to me that martial arts is not a good thing for kids, or it could be a bad thing. They're learning violence, it could make them violent, all of this kind of stuff. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. A good school is not going to do that. It's going to do the opposite. It's going to build a sense of security and a sense of confidence in those children. It's going to expose them to what violence can look like and how to manage. But it's also going to show them what violence feels like, make them less likely to want to do that to someone else. And it's also going to show them how to manage pressure, how to manage failure. I think the martial arts has a lot to offer, and it's not the only thing that has these things to offer, but it has them. It's the one that I'm talking about, and it definitely has them. I want to hear what challenges that you've faced. I hope that you hit the comments and talk about the challenges that you've faced and how maybe the martial arts or something else has helped you address those or manage those or become better at dealing with those. It has improved your quality of life and your quality of your mental headspace. I want to hear what books you're reading, and I want to hear if you've read this book. So be sure to hit those comments. Speaking of comments, we're going to slip into the future, and we're going to see what you guys had to say about last week's video. Okay, let's talk comments. Last week, I had a video about how Eskrima has affected my karate training. In it, I discussed some of the training methodologies that we use and how that has affected my karate methodologies and how I kind of apply it that way. So now let's see what you guys had to say. Karate in Real Life says, you really helped reaffirm what I've been struggling with in my own practice, cross-training within your own art. I think that is invaluable advice. I've been having to search for more freedom of movement by looking at other styles, which has its place, don't get me wrong, but the real impediment has been my own approach, not the style. I have a renewed interest in digging deeply into my style and working with teaching built into the movements. Question, at what point do you think a practitioner needs to start cross-training in other styles, if ever? Do you believe in style stagnation? So let's look at that. I love that you're getting that renewed interest in digging deep into your art, because there is a lot there. And I've been there. I've been in the place where I've looked at all kinds of different things, especially even in my Eskrima, it happened a lot, where I was looking at all of it. I fell in love with all of Eskrima, and I was looking at all of it. And then it hit me that I really needed to spend more time digging deeply into my own art, because just because I haven't seen a particular thing yet doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in my art. I don't have to go somewhere else to find it. Just because another art prioritizes it so that you see it sooner doesn't mean that that's the only time you're ever going to see it. Just like maybe things you do in your art might not show up until later in some other art's curriculum. And I found that that was true. I found that as I continued to dig that a lot of that stuff was there, and I didn't have to go to another art to get it. It was in my art. It just was in a different part of the syllabus, and that is normal. That's natural. You have to prioritize. As far as cross-training other styles, this is a difficult one. This is a personal one, and I believe that it really comes down to your goals. If your goal is to just become effective, regardless of the time that it takes, you can probably cross-train any time. My dojo has multiple arts in it, and I have students that train in all of them that maybe come at least once a week to each of the arts, or even multiple times a week to each art. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you know, when I started, like, it would have been really cool to be able to do something like that myself. I do think that you get more out of them after you've spent more time in one and become more proficient. Not because of the proficiency in the art. I don't think that that's the answer. I think it's the knowledge of your own body, the time that you've spent developing an understanding of you and your body goes a long way to helping you understand a different art when you train that art. So your ability to pick up what they're teaching, you're not trying to also figure out your body. You're just trying to figure out what they're teaching you. If you do them all at the same time, then you're probably trying to figure out your body and what they're teaching in every art. And that can be a lot, but it could also be maybe really positive. My personal approach is I'm never gonna fault someone for wanting to investigate another style. And I'm never gonna be one of those people that says you can't go train somewhere else. And sometimes you'll have the ability, and in at least in our school, you get to possibly go learn other styles from me. And so there's a connection there, a connecting point that I can help tie those things together for you and help you see the commonalities as well as the differences. But taking advantage of especially, man, this response is becoming kind of long, especially seminars. Cross-training seminars right away. Like as soon as you have an opportunity to see what's going on in a seminar, go do it, because there's not a commitment. And when it comes to that commitment, really the commitment that I worry about is don't become interested in cross-training in a way that doesn't value the instructor's time. I believe it's better if you can actually dedicate time to the instructor who's sharing that stuff. When you show up and you get on the mat and you're learning, if you do that for one night and then you don't come back for 6 weeks, then you come back for a night and then you don't come back for 4 weeks, you're probably more of a frustration to that person than you are somebody who's taking their knowledge. So I would say a good marker is if you have the time and the interest to cross-train seriously and to at least devote some time regularly so that you're valuing, just writing a check to the place is not the same as valuing the instructor's time. They're sharing something with you that money doesn't buy. Money just keeps the doors open so they have a place to do it. So value their time. Cross-train when you have the ability to value their time and the interest in doing so. If you don't, maybe wait and come back to it later. Keith says, my teacher told me to take a break from learning kata and has been teaching this sort of pattern-based method that is similar to eskrima. Now I don't see any difference between all of the systems that I learned. Yeah, interesting, right? I mean, when you start really breaking it down in that way, it becomes easy to see how a lot of things are common, or how they fit together. The commonalities kind of change and show us that things that we thought were different maybe aren't very. And so I think it's really cool. I think it's really awesome that your instructor's doing that. James Devine says, more related to your last video on self-bullying, my version of the Cobra mantra, which I've said for many years to myself daily as well as constantly at home and in class, is I can't does not exist in this dojo. And I love that. Put that on a t-shirt and let's do shirts and patches. And the people need a shirt that says I can't does not exist in this dojo. Sir James Gray says, I particularly like this video, how arnis affected my karate. As you know, arnis is very similar to Kali and Eskrima. I think that I've actually met your instructor. Did you say Bobby Tabawara? No. Training with, I mentioned that I trained with Fergus Fausto, and he's trained with Tabawara. His instructor is Sam Buat, but he's also trained with Tabawara. He's familiar with that. My instructor is Guru John Balstrazak. His maestro, also mine, is Maestro Mike Mulconnery in Idaho, and we also have connection to the Hawaii family, the Hawaii Ohana, that includes Maestro Tabosa and Maestro Mendoza and others. So I look forward to the day that maybe I get to meet Tabawara, but I haven't yet. I just cleaned up my footwork and improved my dexterity quite a bit. In fact, had I have had the opportunity to have chosen arnis as my primary art, I think I may have gone that route. So many of my empty hand drills come right out of arnis because it is so practical. I don't disagree. I have mentioned before that if I had to strip down to only one art, it might be Eskrima. It may. Thankfully, I don't have to choose. So I can keep doing all of it because they all have pieces, they all have things that I love, and so I wouldn't really just want to get rid of any of them. So I understand where you're coming from on that. Jerry Higgs says, I started training Kali after earning my black belt and was amazed by the flow of this. Not so popular at the time 17 years ago, I'm happy that it caught on Greetings from the UK. Greetings from Wyoming. And thank you for sending that comment. I think, isn't that interesting? I do think that it has such validity, especially. It's the art that can bolt on to any other art. You can't just say that about any art, and I love that about it. But it's amazing how many years went by that people just, you didn't know about it. It wasn't talked about. Even when it was in the movies, it still wasn't so popular. People didn't even hear about it. You had the Bruce Lee movies with Inosanto in there, and them working sticks and the chaku and all this. Even then, still, I mean, it was still more of a niche thing then, and people weren't really digging to find out more about it. And then you go to the Philippines, where it was considered more of the low art, and people were more interested in judo and karate and taekwondo as being more revered, higher class arts. Just an interesting history all around. Ang Pedro says, wow, this channel is growing, keep it up. Thank you. I definitely will keep going, and I am super humbled and super thankful that it is growing and more people are reaching out and talking and liking and sharing this stuff with people so that other people can see it, and I can meet more people and have more of these conversations, include more of your comments. This has just been super, super great. So thank you all. Thank every one of you for how amazing this has been, and let's keep doing it. So now let's jump back to the past and see what's happened in this week's video. Okay, that brings us to the end of another video, another Ken Learns Kenfu session, where I share my experiences with you. Hope that you enjoyed this. Hope that it was meaningful to you. And if it was, I hope that you like it. I hope that you share it. That helps the channel. It gets it out there, and it supports and encourages what I'm doing. If you like what I'm doing and you want to subscribe so you know when the new videos come out, you can hit that right here. Make sure to hit that bell. You can find a playlist of these videos right here, and 2 more that you might like right here. I'm Ken. This is kenfuTV, and I'll catch you in the next one.